Well, we are starting to cut this out. Left a little extra at the back and at the front, just in case our bend makes the wood need to be a little longer than we have. And we're cutting about a saw width away from our drawn line, just to give ourselves a little bit of extra here. You can kind of see where we're at here. Well, maybe if I get in focus. Okay, here's our first piece cut out. And because the pattern we're using is very close to being symmetrical, and we don't want to mess this up, we're going to write bow. And we're also going to write glue to indicate which side of the board is the one we want to face in. Because redwood is notorious for splitting, we are approaching this cut a little bit differently. We have started our cut in the center of the curve, and we are cutting away from the center, which means we're cutting downhill relative to the grain. Since tear out is a real problem with redwood and other highly grained woods like cedar, we want to make sure that the tear out, and you can see a little bit of it right here, is in our scrap piece, not in our good piece. And if we cut downhill, that will indeed happen. Well, here's an evening's work. Our pieces are cut out and laid out, and you can see basically how we've done it. Here is our laminate basically laid together with a basswood side on one side, a redwood side on the other, and the profiles pretty much ready to lay out on our board, our strongback. So that's the next phase. Well, we do of course have to glue these together. Here we have our two sides laid out, ready to glue, and the metal pattern for the two sides is also laying here. I'm going to try an experiment. As you can see here on the metal pattern is a line that says end of curve cut for bending the stern of the boat, and I have transferred that onto the inside of both of these pieces. I think I'm going to try running the router over them and making my curve cut before I glue them together. We'll see if that works. And here we have our curve cut being made with the router, and it seems to be working. Let me move this out of the way, and we'll grab the two sides, and you can see what we've created here. Basically, this is what we need to have in order to make the curve around the back corner of the boat, which gets to be quite sharp and can't be done with a single piece without breaking it. So, knock on wood, we're producing something here that's serviceable and probably quite a bit cleaner than cutting it out with a table saw. But it does require a steady hand. Here we have our sides ready to glue with the completed curve cuts already made on the inside by routing about a 1/16 of an inch off the inside of both of the glued surfaces. Here is the result clamped together, and with the curve cut pretty easily visible. With a curve cut like this, it definitely makes these side pieces considerably thinner and much easier to bend. So when we get to making the sharp curve at the back of the boat, this will allow us to do it without breaking anything, we hope. Time for the glop. Everything's blown off. The table is covered with, we hope, a material from which these glued items will release after they are glued. We're going to basically try doing them all at the same time. We've got all of our clamps and weights already dry fitted, so everything's ready to rock. So here comes the glop. We have one of the sets pre-coated with epoxy in preparation for our final coat of glue. I kind of like to do this because I think that what happens if you don't is that you end up with dry glue joints. Here I am pouring some more glop into this thing, and knock on wood, when I get done spreading it around, it will be like the other one is, which is almost dry. So we take our Bondo spreader here and we shovel the poop around, and it's a very efficient way to get this stuff spread without using excessive quantities. And at this stage of the game, we're just trying to get it to saturate into the wood so that it doesn't suck the glue joint dry later. Now that we've got our pre-coat, our saturation coat on these, you can kind of see how different the grain in the two woods is. The basswood is almost like a knotted mat. And of course the redwood is just incredibly linear. This is probably a good union, the one to hold the other together, the redwood to apply some linear capacity to the basswood. We're waiting here about 20 minutes for our saturation coat to set up. This epoxy takes overnight to dry, so we're trying to let it get into the wood and saturate. At this time we've also chosen to saturate the inside of our kerf cut, because it's really the only time we'll have an opportunity to do that. After the pieces are glued together, that option is not going to really be available to us. Well, we waited our 20 minutes and now we're going to put some stuff on here. This time the operation's going to be a little different, as we are going to try and do a little build-up on these panels so that we can fill some voids when we do glue them together. Hopefully it won't run out all over the place. Well, actually we want it to run all over the place, so to some extent that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is to get a little build-up. And it looks like we're getting it. Well, we've got one panel flipped over on top of the other, and unfortunately this is like wrestling a greased pig around. So in the interest of having things stay put, we are going to put a couple of positioning pins in. There's one. Well, there's another evening's work. Doesn't look like much buried under all that steel, but I think our gluing went pretty good. The steel will hold everything quite even, along with, of course, a few well-placed air nails just around the edges. And I think in the morning we're going to find ourselves a pretty nice pair of ice boat sides.